When people learn about Clarence Adams' life, they may raise many questions. Why he chose to go to China after being a prisoner in the Korean War? Why did he return to America after living in China for about 12 years? Why did he open the Chinese restaurant in Memphis? From my perspective, he was seeking for equality throughout his life. Adams had suffered from racial injustice in his childhood. We were not allowed to hang out on Main Street. We could not eat anywhere or use the toilet. Even if there was a park in a black neighborhood, it usually was considered a white park. Racial discrimination indirectly led Adams to join the army.
On my last years in high school, I was basically getting into a lot of trouble.
He and his friends, his buddies, whatever, they were like a gang, were roving around the railroad tracks, and this white man started following him.
He wanted to know if we could get him a black woman. We walks away from him. He followed. And he kept hollering, "Hey, boy, why can't I get me a black woman?" We're afraid because we know what can happen. If we do something to him, they lynch us. We'll never get out of jail. We're walking.
One of the guys just turned around and popped him in the mouth.
He went down. When he went down, we stumped him, all 5 of us, and we left.
The next morning, the cops came, and they knocked on the door, bam, 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 opened the door, and it's the cops. So my dad was sitting in the kitchen, though, and his mother said, "Skippy's not here," really loud to let him know, the cops are looking for him. And he went straight out the back door. He runs down the railroad track all the way downtown to the recruiting station and joins up.
I went in the Army in 1947. However, the Korean War changed my whole fate.
In Korea, he was signed to Battery A of the 503rd Field Artillery, an all-black regiment in the 2nd Division.
I was captured, which was November the 30th, 1950. There wasn't too much friction between prisoners and captors, who were the Chinese.
They said, "We don't understand the American way of life, so we need some volunteers to explain what the Americans like and what we wanted." And I said, "Well, look, I'll go. I volunteer." I asked for recreation equipment. I asked if we could use an old building to set up a recreation hall where we sit. I said, some of the guys are religious. They want to know if they can worship. I asked if what food they brought us, if we could let our cooks cook it the way we like it. So they agreed with everything I said.
Wishing to live in an equal society is one of the main reasons that Adams went to China.
My family and millions of other Negroes, plus myself, have suffered under the brutal attacks of white supremacy and the cruel slave laws of the southern states. These are the reasons why I can't be living happily with my family.
I was assured by the camp authorities that, well, we don't discriminate. It's not the principle, it's not our principle to discrimination. We believe that all people are equal.
Adams indeed felt equality at first. In China, he went to university, got married, and became a translator. Adams tried to live the life same as ordinary people to fulfill his equality principle.
I had been offered extra rations, but I said, well, since I live in China, I'll just live like the rest of the people, and I turned them down.
Like Martin Luther King, Adams also tried to advocate for domination, racial discrimination.
He made broadcast speeches to the black soldiers fighting in Vietnam, urging them to go back home and fight for racial equality and their own freedom. So I think he did his share toward world peace and international understanding.
However, Clarence gradually felt abandoned in China.
The embassies, of course, was supplying me with whiskey and so forth, and I did a lot of little cooking there on my own, American food, soul food, and even the ambassadors, when they heard that I was cooking, they came around, and they supplied the booze and I the food, and we had a nice time. However, the Chinese was noticing this sort of relationship, and they didn't particularly like it. So they asked me to cut down on it. So I knew then that I was getting in bad with them. The Chinese have a way of letting you know what they think about you. When we first went to China, they called us comrades. And after some years in China, they switched from comrades to calling us peace fighters, which means a step down. With comrades, we one of them. When you become a peace fighter, you can be anybody fighting for peace. Then later on, the worst thing to be called in China is to be called a mister. Then they started addressing us as Mr. Adams, and then you know that you're completely out. When they start using that, when you become a mister, that's the worst thing to be.
The atmosphere of the Cultural Revolution became more severe. It was wise for him to return to America. His initial journey was not smooth.
When we got to San Francisco, every day, early in the morning, some men came and got my daddy, took him off. And later, of course, I found out it was the CIA and you know, I don't know, maybe FBI, something like that.
We had some very hard times when I finally reached the shores here. I couldn't find work. In other words, the news media had really ruined me. And everybody wanted hands off, even fellows that I had gone to school with, they were afraid of me because I was painted as a red. And of course, then later on, the government subpoenaed me, and I had to go to Washington where they were trying me for treason.
He wanted knowledge, he wanted education, he wanted an opportunity. And that's what he told those people at the senators who subpoenaed him. He says, why? Because I'm a black man, I don't have the right to make a life for myself. You've done this all over the world. You've gone anywhere you wanted to go, and you did whatever you wanted to do to gain what you need to gain. But I'm a black man, and I can't do the same thing. I can't get a better life for myself.
Nevertheless, Adams never gave up. He managed to root in Memphis again and became his own boss. Still worked in his restaurant before he died. This is a brief story of Clarence Adams. A man spent his life seeking equality.